Hey, what's up YouTube? HoennMaster here, and I'm going to be doing Guide to the GTS, the Global Trade Station, on Pokemon. And the reason why you want to care about the Global Trade Station is because people put some pretty crazy shit up on there. You know, you can get legendary Pokemon. I've gotten a lot of shiny Pokemon personally. I'll go over those in a later video. But it's just a really ripe resource that anyone can reap if they have the right materials. And so the first thing you want to do, if you want to be able to trade on the GTS, you don't need to do any of this. This is all optional, but it helps a lot, and I'll explain why later, is you want to organize all your boxes, first of all. That way, if you're looking for a certain Pokemon, you know what box to look in. Like, for example, if you want a legendary, you can go to a legendary box you have. Or if you want, like, you know, a fully evolved Pokemon, you can go to that box and select from it. And one of the reasons why this is important is because everything on the GTS is first come, first serve. So if someone else gets the Pokemon before you, it'll show a message saying this Pokemon has already been traded. And that's a screen you never want to see. And so you always want to be able to select the Pokemon the fastest possible. And the way to do that is by organizing all your boxes. And next, to make sure that you even have those Pokemon, what you want to do is you want to go back to all your previous games, Omega Ruby, X and Y, maybe even Heart Gold, Soul Silver, Black 2, White 2, and you want to get all the legendaries you can from those games. They're generally not too difficult. I'm going to be showing the Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire ones for a certain purpose, but generally those are the games you're going to transfer up from. And then after you get those previous legendaries, you're going to go to the GTS, you know, Festival Plaza, hit trade, GTS, and you connect. And you always want to submit a Pokemon. You get two options. There's Seek Pokemon and Deposit Pokemon, or whatever the option is. I'm not looking at the DS at this moment. You always want to put a Pokemon in there. And the reason why is because there's always a chance that someone will accept your offer. And you want to be able to utilize that as much as possible, because a chance of having, you know, a ridiculous trade out there is still higher than having no trade at all. So it's worth putting at least one thing on there at a time, because you can get some pretty good stuff. I've traded a Blaziken for a Groudon using that before, and that's just pure profit. Like, I transferred up my Torchic, raised it 35 levels through the Battle Buffet, and bam, Groudon. It's a great trade. And then the final thing is to really go through the GTS itself. And this is more difficult to explain because it's a very random thing. Everything on the GTS is completely random. And so what you need to do is equip yourself as best as you can in order to be able to use the GTS. And so what you do is you want to get just a huge horde of legendary Pokemon, because that's essentially what you'll be trading. If you want to get a shiny Pokemon, the only thing that you can select, because you can't ask for shiny Pokemon, the only way that you can select something that'll even be remotely worth a shiny Pokemon is a legendary. So you get all the legendaries from your previous games, bring them up, and then what you want to do is you want to trade up for legendaries and trade for other legendaries. And so what this basically means is, say you have, you know, like the Blaziken for a Groudon, that's an example, but you can also do trading from legendaries to legendaries, and a lot of the time this is subjective. I was thinking of making a tier list, but I really couldn't find anything definitive. And so I can kind of go through some of the things that, you know, to consider when trading legendaries for legendaries, which is why I'm going to Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. It's the most recent game, and it has the most legendaries in it recently. X and Y only has the main Pokemon, Xerneas and Yveltal. There's Mewtwo, and then there's the legendary Bird and Zygarde. But Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire has a lot more, and it includes Pokemon from previous games. So obviously you get your Groudon and Kyogre from the main game. What's good about these Pokemon is that they're well known, there's a high demand for them, and they're popular. So if you put out a Groudon, it'll probably get traded. However, it's not difficult to get one. If you buy a copy of Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, once you get past the 7th gym badge, I'm pretty sure, you will get one of these Pokemon, unless you're a fucking boosted animal. And so you will get one of these, and so everyone has one, and so there's a high supply for a high demand, so it doesn't make them as valuable, but you're not going to get, like, better trades from most of the time. You won't be able to squeeze that extra money out. Next, there's the Reggie Trio. I haven't seen many people ask for these specifically. Maybe that's because I don't actually have them on my account, and whenever I do choose Pokemon you have. Speaking of that, when you're looking for a Pokemon, you can press Y, it goes to a sort menu, go to the top option, hit Pokemon you have, and then you don't get like random BS trades. But anyway, back to what I'm talking about. I haven't seen any of these really. I've seen 1 or 2 people asking for like Reggie Ice, but I haven't seen many of the Reggie trio. I could just be looking in the wrong places, but personally I haven't been seeing them as much. Rayquaza, however you say it. You get one through the Delta episode, although that's later in the game, so not as many people have it. But there's a very high demand for it, especially if it's level 100. If you get a Pokemon to level 91, it gets in a new sort option because it sorts by 1 to 10, 11 to 20, blah, 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 up to 91 through 100. And the lowest you can ask for of that range is 91. It's 91 to 100. So you can be trying to get a 100 and get a 91 instead. So if you have a level 91 Rayquaza, that opens up a lot of options. Although sometimes people just ask for flat out Rayquaza itself. And sure, everyone gets one, but it's more difficult to get because you've probably used your Master Ball and you have to catch it normally. People might have butchered it, and it's harder to get. Deoxys is more rare. You do get one right after the Rayquaza, and you don't get another opportunity to go back, I'm pretty sure. But it is not high of a demand. I've looked several times on the Deoxys page and haven't seen anyone offering it, and I haven't seen anyone requesting it either. So that leads me to believe that Deoxys just isn't as relevant in comparison to some other Pokemon. Regigigas, I've seen a few. It's definitely more valuable, and you could probably get stuff out of it if people were looking for it specifically. Lugia and Ho-Oh, just like the Groudon and Kyogre, are face Pokemon, meaning that, you know, they're on the face of a cover for Heart Gold, Soul Silver, and people know about them and they care about them. And you can find them here as well. If you have Heart Gold, Soul Silver, you can transfer it up, but if you have these games, you can transfer it up as well. So they're decently valuable. Their demand's pretty high, but it's like the same case as Groudon and Kyogre. Heatran is more rare as well. I'm not sure if you can get it in Sinnoh, maybe like deep in the bowels, but it's definitely worth a lot, as is Cresselia. I'm not sure where Cresselia is on this list, but try to trade up to these if possible. Latios and Latios are the opposite. You get one at level 30. They are not worth that much, in all honesty. You get to level 30 and then you get one, and then there's the Eon ticket after, so you get the other one. They just aren't worth as much as some other rare legendaries. There's Uxie, Mesprit, and Azelf. I haven't seen too much demand for these guys, but you can probably get some decent stuff out of them. Palkia and Dialga, face Pokemon, pretty high demand. Giratina is even more so, but these two, you want to try to trade up from if possible. Same thing with the other face value Pokemon that are legendaries. Giratina included in that, even more so than the previous two. These three, they're just aren't as valuable. Same thing with the Reggie trio. You know, they're rare and harder to get. I mean, I guess there's Black 2, White 2, and Black White. But there isn't much of a demand for them. Like, they aren't spectacular in battle. They don't look particularly cool. And for that reason, people don't care too much about them except for Pokedex credit. Reshiram, Zekrom, more face value, pretty good. You can only get them in 2 games, so that's pretty valuable as well. Well, I mean, I guess there is the Fusion Kyurem. And speaking of Kyurem, here he is. Worth, I wouldn't say it's worth more than these guys, probably on the same level, because it might not be face value, but you get it after these guys, and it's not on the cover, so it isn't as relevant. However, I've noticed actually a pretty high interest in these three, along with the Zapdos, Moltres, and Articuno. These trios, I know Suicune's particularly good in battle, but I've noticed a pretty high demand for these guys and for the 3 birds. I know the birds are more valuable than these guys, because while you can get these on here, you can't really get them on the other game. I mean, you can get them on X and Y, but it's a pain in the ass. You have to keep on going and finding Zapdos or Articuno, whatever you're looking for. Tornadus and Thundurus have very high value. Worth more than a lot of the other ones on this list, especially Landorus, because it has that competitive value. And so try to get these if possible. They're probably at the very top of the tier list, maybe with like Rayquaza if I were to make one. And then Cresselia. Here's the Cresselia again. Same level as Heatran, a bit below the other ones. I know I have like 4, but they're good. They're kind of rare to an extent, but not as rare, so that's why they're worth a bit less than expected. And so hopefully that gives you a good gauge of what to consider how much the Pokemon is and how much of a demand there is. You might have observed something different. If so, go with that. I'm just going off what I've seen. I'm a specific demographic for what I've been looking for. And so, you might find different results. But whatever you're doing, make sure to consider the level to an extent. If it's 91 or over, that has bonus points. If you have demand for it, if it's a really popular Pokemon, face Pokemon, people want it, or if it's good in battle, specifically like Landorus. And along with those two factors, you have to make sure to consider how you get it. If it's an easy to get Pokemon, it's not going to be worth as much because there's going to be a high supply, like Latios and Latios. And so after you start trading up, then you can trade for shinies. And there's no good way to do it. Pokemon GTS is kind of sucky in the fact that you can't really look directly at shinies. You have to go through, scroll through really quickly and look at the image. If it looks different from the other ones, then you know, oh, hey, that's shiny. Which is specifically difficult for Pokemon like Snorlax or Gengar, that shinies are really similar. But the more important drawback is that you can't search specifically for them. So what it means is you just have to keep on going through the GTS, looking at every Pokemon and scrolling through. A fun, not really fun, a practical tip is that newer entries are on the left-hand side, while older ones are on the right. And so if you look on the right-hand side, you'll see offers for like Arceus, Meloetta, Keldeo, Victini, and you can't get those because they're event Pokemon. Well, you can get them, but you can't trade them on the GTS. And so just stay to the left, and if you don't see anything that is updated recently, and once you see really ridiculous offers, at that point you can really just assume that, those are old offers, not going to be productive, and you're not going to find anything past that point. And yeah, try to trade up, try to find Pokemon that you want, and if you have a huge stock of Legendaries, when you see that option, you can go for it as quickly as you can with your organized boxes, and then you can get shinies. I know I've gotten like maybe 15 so far. It's all a matter of having the right stock, and so covering a wide array of Pokemon, and knowing how to get that stock, so you can be as quick as possible to get the Pokemon. And that's all I can give based on the GTS. If you liked it, well, like the video, obviously. That's common sense. If you want to see more, subscribe. Please, I need subscribers. I have a wife and kids to feed. And, if you have some friends that might enjoy this guide or having trouble with the GTS, send them here, please. I need more views and subscribers. See you guys.